Okay, this is reality with partiality. I am. And I go by the AKA partiality, which means one of a kind. Together with me is my co host, namely
Ivan
my brother.
Williams.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, an attorney at law. And
And
we
labor
have
consultant.
today in studio, yes, and labor consultant, Franzwah, my colleague. And we grew up together in the Antigua and so on. So Franzwah Estrada, the esteem, is to my mind, very, very accomplished. And he is here to tell us of his journey, his past, present, future, in becoming the very best version of himself. Francois, we're glad to have you. And
Well,
I know you have your own show. So you go ahead, just feel free, take as much time as you want, and make your presentation.
okay. Well,
Welcome.
Welcome, Francois.
thank you. Good morning, Percy. Good morning, Ivan. Good morning, Belize. Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to share with people who I am. Um, um, I won't take too much time talking about myself, but I was born in Danguga, Belize, and I attended Sacred Heart Elementary School um, with Percy. I remember walking home from school with our short pants, short khaki pants and white shirt, and going to the football games and so forth in Danguga. When Danguga was Danguga back in the early 70s. Um, I remember starting school at Sacred Heart Elementary School, and for me, from my experiences, this is the place where my indoctrination began. This is the place where brainwashing began, because being Garifuna, the schools, we weren't allowed to speak Garifuna in the schools, and then we were taught that our spirituality was devil worshiping or voodoo, right? So this is where I began to feel as if I wasn't Garifuna anymore, right? Fast forward to 1979, where I moved to Long Beach, California, where my parents, my mom and my dad were at that time, and they invited me to come to the States, and I moved to the States. And I don't want to get too involved in my life, but in my life story. But from from Long Beach, California, I decided that I was going to enlist in the United States Navy. Um, my cousin Bill Flores thinks that the Marine Corps is the best service, but the Navy is the best service, right? So I enlisted in the U.S. Navy, um, where I became an electrical engineer, and my job was to ensure that the ship had power uh, throughout the entire ship. So my job was electrical engineer slash electrician. Uh, Being in the Navy, oh, sorry, but we're doing construction here at the house, and if you hear any noise, I'm sorry, but yeah. So we're doing construction. So back to back to the Navy. So the Navy took me around the world. I saw places that I only dreamt of. I've been to every single continent except for one. Um, I was in the Persian Gulf, Iran, Bahrain. I visited Egypt, um, the Caribbean, Panama, Costa Rica, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam. So I went around the world in the Navy, and it was a great thing for me. In the Navy, uh, there was a commander, Commander Johnson, who was a black commander. He took me under his wing because coming from Belize in those days, we were so timid, man. And when I went back home recently, I realized that the students at the schools, they're so timid. They're very timid. So nothing has really changed from when I left the United States to now. But anyways, this commander took me under his wing, and he taught me how to be a black man. Where he guided me, you know. I remember shaking his hands, and my handshake was so soft and weak. And he used to say, "Man, take my hand and grab my hand and shake my hand and look me in my face when you talk to me." And that's how I became versed in handshaking and maintaining eye contact with someone when you speak to them. Because when I was in Dangriga, I noticed that a lot of the people, when you talk with them, they can't maintain eye contact with you. They would look away or look down to the ground when you're talking to them. So this is where I learned how to maintain eye contact and do a firm handshake and be real. This is when I realized that I was born to be real, right? This commander taught me or showed me that I wasn't born to be liked. I was born to be real. And when you are real and you keep it real, you will be disliked. You will be misdiagnosed. And as a matter of fact, talking about misdiagnosis, Ivan, you don't really know me per se, but I have been misdiagnosed in the Garifuna community from Los Angeles to Las Vegas to New York to Belize to Dangriga, Hopkins. I have been misdiagnosed. And it's not a good feeling to be misdiagnosed, and the diagnosis really sticks with people. You know, especially when it's a bad when it's really bad, right? I've been misdiagnosed as being aggressive when I'm assertive, right? I've been misdiagnosed as being someone difficult to work with, but I just keep it real. I keep it real all the time. I remember Percy Lewis's dad. That man was real. That man was real. And as a matter of fact, growing up back in those days, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Guerrero, Mr. Mendez, all the men in the community, Ivan, these men in our community, they were solid, strong, assertive men. If these men were alive today, they probably get misdiagnosed just like me, because these men were assertive. They believe in helping the community, and they were assertive. So back to my misdiagnosis. So I've been misdiagnosed in the Garifuna communities throughout the globe, man, from Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New York. I was in New York recently for a funeral, and I had a conversation with someone, and he said, "Man, Franz, I love what you do, but our people will not like when you speak the truth." So fast forward to military days. I did my time in the military. I got discharged honorably. I came back to Long Beach, California, 2005. 2005, I was living in Kansas at the time. And then the city of Los Angeles proclaimed April 12th, Garifuna Day in Los Angeles. This was April 12th, 2005. So I decided I was going to fly down from Kansas to come to LA to capture this event, which I did. Then I met Mr. Ruben Reyes. And this is how Ruben Reyes and myself became acquainted. He was selling a Garifuna flag. The Garifuna flag that he had was yellow, white, and black. And I had a conversation with Mr. Reyes. At that time, I'm telling him, "You know what, Ruben? When I was growing up, the flag that I saw was black, white, and yellow. And I said, this flag that you have right now is going to cause some problems in the communities throughout. And that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to really be an activist and put together my company called Gary Vision, because I've been thinking about Gary Vision and being an activist for a very, very long time. From the time I went to the military to realizing that I was being brainwashed in schools, I was being indoctrinated, I realized that I will grab the bull by the horns and be an activist for my very from the people. Now, being an activist has caused me a lot of issues. When I speak about being proud of who I am as Garifuna, I'm not talking that I'm not saying that I hate the Creole people, or I hate the Spanish, or I hate the Chinese, or I hate the mestizos. I'm just being proud of who I am. And Gary Vision Indigenous Network, this is who we are. We speak for our people. We speak for the rights of Indigenous people. And it has caused me, it has caused me, and personally, it caused me a lot of dislikes. People have walked away from me. People have slandered my name. People have misdiagnosed me because of what I stand for. And I realized that standing up for the truth is going to cause a lot of problems. It's going to cause a lot of issues, but not for me, because I know who I am. On Percy's show recently, he spoke about purpose. I know I believe in purpose. I believe in my purpose. You know, I was created from an image of perfection. Because
Yes.
if you believe in the Bible says that you are created from a mold of perfection, right? So
Yes.
so I do believe that I was created from a mold of perfection, and I am perfect in a certain way, right? We are perfect. We are perfect in a certain aspect. So so yeah, I lost my thought as to where I was going. But you guys have any questions so far?
Oh, of course. Thanks for asking. You know, it's refreshing to hear you inform us, educate us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the indoctrination, like you said, at Sacred Heart, our alma mater,
Right.
Roman Catholic, right? Uh-huh. System, Roman Catholic system.
Right.
Yes. Garifuna spirituality. Um, Tell us more about your view on that.
Well, I believe that every indigenous people. I mean, I've been around the globe. I've been to many places, and whenever I was traveled when I was in the military, I would search out and seek out the grassroots people, and speak with them about spirituality, about how they see life, and I realized that every indigenous people are connected to spirit. They're connected to the ground. So every indigenous people are spiritual people, not religious, you know. And in religion, I mean, I have friends who are Catholic, Methodist, Anglican, Muslim, and when I say that I don't believe in religion, they think that I don't believe in God. But I believe in a source. I really believe in a source, and I call the source the highest God, the higher power. That's my take on religion and spirituality, Percy.
Yes, yes. My co-host.
Yes, yes, I was, this is not the first time I'm hearing this, but, I wonder what was happening at that time back in the Roman Catholic teachings where you are not allowed to speak your language. That
Okay.
that is a kind of betrayal, a kind of suppression. I wonder what was going on back then, why that was, the case?
Well, they wanted, for me, they wanted to control your mind, and they did. They did control the minds of a lot of people, and that's what I believe. That's what I think. As a matter of fact, I that's what I seem to know. They were trying to control your mind, and it has worked because today, over 400 years, over 200 years since we've been in since the government people have been in Belize, uh, religion has taken over. Um, um, Recently, I went to the Buyaba, which is a place for spiritual healing for the government people. And when I walked in, the first thing I saw was a statue of Jesus, and it wasn't a black statue; it was a white statue of Jesus. Now, how can we call ourselves spiritual people if we have a statue of a white God in our place of healing? You understand?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
so
Uh-huh. Yeah, go ahead, Ivan. Go ahead.
and me speaking about these issues, Ivan and Percy. I mean,
Mhm.
as a matter of fact, I wanna I wanna ask all your viewers, Mr. Percy, all your viewers
Yeah.
from what you've heard about Gary Vision. If you hear anything on Gary Vision that's not true, please comment today, because I whenever we do a show, we do a research. We do a lot of research before we
Yes.
create these shows, and then and the stuff
Yes.
that we speak, they're true. But Garifuna people, we don't like to hear the truth. You know, the the truth is always harsh, but Ivan, it doesn't matter how you say it. If you say it softly, it's still the truth, and it's still gonna hurt, and it's still harsh, right? If you scream it, you can whisper the truth, and it's still gonna be harsh. It doesn't matter how you say it, right? People say,
Okay.
Francois is too aggressive, he's angry. No, I am not angry at all. I'm not angry, I'm just assertive. I'm very, very assertive. My father was, my father was misunderstood.
Yes.
My father
Yes.
was very, very much misunderstood, and he died, people believing he was a certain
Yes.
way, you know. And then here I am. I have been misunderstood my whole life, my whole entire life, especially by my own Garifuna people. Listen,
Yes.
I
You've been misunderstood. Yes.
yeah. So
You've been misunderstood. You're an electrical engineer, and you mastered this while you were in the Navy,
while maybe yeah.
and then you started Gary Vision. Tell us about how you envisioned it, how that came about, because that takes a lot to have a show,
Yeah, it
and
was.
have
It is.
yeah. Tell us more about how that evolved.
Well, okay. But it all started from when I was growing up. Because for me in Danguda, now listen, I'm talking about my experience, right? This is coming
Yes.
from
Yes.
me. I was
Yes.
ashamed of being Garifuna. I was ashamed of being Garifuna. Number one, because when I was growing up, listen, most of us spoke Creole,
Okay.
because
Okay.
the indoctrination was so deep that we didn't want to be Garifuna. We wanted to be somebody else. So we ended up speaking more Creole than anything else. So when I was in the military, I used to listen to cassette with Garifuna music, and I used to say, "Man, I'm starting to remember what these words mean." And that's
Yes.
when it clicked on me that I have to do something to educate, to empower Garifuna. And this actually, that's when it really started.
Yes.
That's when it really started.
I I,
Uh,
I want to congratulate you on, you know, it's like an empire you built there. Really, we're looking at some of the equipment you have in the back, and yeah, it is. So when we're done with the show, we can discuss off air linkage. You know how we can hook up with each other to yeah, because let's discuss that off air. But let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without question, you have changed. Now, changing is partial. Are you ready for transformation? Because to be transformed is the whole of you. Now, let me. Conflict begins within the individual. When the individual fails to resolve the conflict within him or herself, that's when the individual takes it outside. Now, when we become transformed, we no longer experience conflict within ourselves. Like I said on the show to Ivan, we don't create poisons and drink them ourselves. Whenever we get mad or says to somebody, I'm mad, we're that close to the madhouse. Whenever we become bitter, envious, we may intend it to affect other people, but we're drinking it ourselves. So we are telling our system, one moment I want to live, but in that moment when we're vexed or bitter, we're saying we want to die. So we're confusing, conflicted in the system. To become transformed, one has to trade in those ID badges for a universal identity. For God is one, a spirit. In the spirit realm, there is no conflict, and the universe is one energy. So when I see Franzwah and I see co-host Ivan, I don't see you and I see me as separate so that what I am is bigger than who you are. I see you as forming part of myself. For I don't have my own life. I want to have my own body and mind. But life is a shared commodity, shared with all other things and created things, and beings. So so in transforming, a person changes governance over him or herself from being governed by the physical realm and body and mind to becoming governed by the spirit nature. I'll have you respond in a minute. To do that, one has to first go through an explosion. Going from rigid state, I am this way, I am this way, I was born this way, to becoming flexible. When people say, I like this, but I don't like that, they're not flexible. I am a morning person, but not a night person. They're not flexible. So you go from rigid to flexible liquid. You go from flexible liquid to vapor. And from vapor, you go to nothingness. You become nothing. When you say, I am nothing, you're correct. We came from nothing and we'll return to nothing in a physical sense. Nothingness is who we are at the core, the realm of the spirit. So if one is overly identified, and this is where I'll ask you to respond. If one is overly identified with, i.e., the the ID badge of a country, the ID badge of an ethnic group like Garifna Duo, um, um, it's a barrier to spirituality because in spirituality there there's no me and you. There's there's one life. There are no boundaries, no boundaries in the spirit realm. So you once has to put a safe distance, between myself and my family. We spoke of family yesterday. A safe distance. So when we're making decisions that have to do with physicality, they don't. We are not biased. For God is impartial. God does not discriminate. So um, the problem is never the spirit realm. For the spirit realm is perfect. But in the physical realm where we're operating, unless we are transformed, it is difficult to make strides. Now, your your reaction to that. Hello. Sorry. What? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm. One moment, Francois. I'm messing up with the mic. Um. Sorry. It's my fault with the mic.
I can hear you, Percy. Ivan, can you hear
Unmute
me?
mic. Okay. There it goes. Says unmute mic. Yeah. Yeah, Francois. I think we can hear you now. Sorry, you have to. I messed up. I messed with the mic. Go ahead.
Okay, you were talking about transformation.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so as you know, Percy, when I was going to school, my name was Francis, right? But
Yes.
so
Francis.
yeah,
Creole like
so
spell. Garena go on. Creole like spell name, no? Francis.
yeah. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
so the name I was born with was Francis, but
Yeah.
Ivan
Got you.
and Percy, I've been through 9 heart procedures. I died. I had a heart attack and I called 911. When they came to my house, I was dead, and I didn't wake up until 13 hours later the next day, and realizing they had to do open heart surgery. So they had to cut my chest open, take up my heart,
Yeah.
patch it up, put it back in, and that was
Wow.
when I became transformation, and doing that transformation, Percy, Ivan, I became, after my heart attack, after my heart surgery, I was on all these medications, and I became homeless. I was living in a van in Los Angeles for almost 8 months, almost a year. I live in a van, in a Dodge van, and that was my transformational process,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
People thought
Yes.
I was crazy. They talked about me for being homeless. I didn't have anything, but then at that time I was being
Got you.
transformed.
Got you.
I was, it's like when you put a
Yes.
piece of clay in the oven to become a pot, it burns, and the more heat you put
Mm-hmm.
to it, the stronger it gets.
Mm-hmm.
I was being tested.
Mm-hmm.
I was being tested, and the more heat that was applied to my life, the stronger I was becoming. And that's when I was transformed from Francis to Franzwah.
I got you.
Transformation.
I got you. So you became illumined, and you started seeing life differently and becoming a devotee to spirituality.
Yeah, you know what? I was always spiritual, but that transformation from my heart attack to homelessness, that really propelled me into really
Yes.
transforming my ways, because now I there's no need to get angry. There's no need to be frustrated about whatever, you know. So I
Okay.
don't let whatever happens to me, I deal. Whatever people say, you know what, it's okay. It's okay, because I know who I am. I know what I was here to do.
Got you. Got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. There's a period in life when we want to be like others, or we follow certain ways that we've been brought up, certain teachings,
Yeah.
and we don't search within ourselves to become that person who we would like to be. And so it is very important, not to imitate, but to be yourself. And that requires,
Notwithstanding, we want to resolve the disconnection.
okay,
We want to resolve the disconnection with others. Francois has peace within himself.
himself. Right.
Absolutely.
And
but
so
he want to,
he's not competing with others. It's just being himself.
he has peace within himself, without question. Now, let me ask you this, Francois. You see,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what we call as freedom is really compulsive thought and behavior. For example, when somebody says, I'm free to do as I please, that is compulsive talking. So, conscious as opposed to compulsive behavior would say, I am free to do that which is best for me and mine. Being in the ambition stage, when you're still working on your ambition, and in the visionary stage, I am free to do that which is best for the whole. Because you're seeing it then from a universal stand. For you adopted a universal identity. So in that, when you say I want what's best for the whole, you wanting for everyone else the same thing that you want for yourself. You're not there trying to be one up on the next person. So then now in the spirit realm, you see, you neither have look up to anyone, not even the Pope. Freedom of choice, however, is a two-way street. No one is
Right.
allowed to give dictation. Like I said, not even the Pope with the edicts. So you on one hand, Ivan and I on one hand are free to make our own choices. However, on the other hand, the Pope and in other individuals are equally free to make their own choices. So in that context, there is no such thing as betrayal. For freedom is a two-way street. Um, 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 so let me ask you to respond to that.
You know, I've always been a spiritual person. I've always been a spiritual person, and this is the way I've always lived my life, Percy,
Yes,
Ivan, and I'm. You said freedom. I'm free. I'm free from all the negative connotations. I'm free. I'm free. I'm free, and this is the way I'm going to live my life until I die. I stay connected to spirit.
yeah, yeah. I was
Tell us,
asking
tell us a little bit more about the
about
work
freedom
of.
of choice. Go ahead, Ivan. Go ahead,
Tell us a
Ivan.
little bit more about the work of Gary Vision.
Um, okay,
Yeah,
Uh,
so after I was finished from the military, I decided that I would go to school. So I went to film school, and then I started investing all this equipment because I knew that Gary Vision had to had to had
yes,
to had to take place. So these cameras behind me,
yes.
I've invested 150,000 US dollars in equipment. And Ivan, if you go to the studio in Dangriga, you will see what type of quality work that we do, what type of production. If you see our production, you will know that it's quality work. Everything that we do, the music videos, the shows, the production, is done with professionalism. Uh, the content
Yes,
is amazing. The quality of the work is
yes.
amazing. And I've
You can
invested
see the
all this money.
engineering, ingenuity in it.
Yeah, I invested all this money. I ran to bring to Dangriga to open the
Yeah.
best broadcast studio in Dangriga. And from my perspective, I went to Love. I've been to Creme. I've seen the equipment they have. Listen, Gary Vision is top notch. And then the people in Dangriga, they refuse to work with me. They refuse to work with me because of my assertiveness, because of the way I care. When I say 5 o'clock, I mean 5 o'clock, man. If you if you gotta come work with
Discipline.
me, and I
With
said
time.
five
Yes,
o'clock,
yes.
they come 5:30, they come, and then they want to get angry at me for
It's
telling
true.
them they're late. So there's no discipline, there's no professionalism, and this is what I'm trying to bring to Dangoga. But instead of they looking at
Yes,
me
yes, yes.
with from that lens, they look at me with anger.
From
They
that
look at me
perspective,
with
sure.
yeah, they look at me with and they really has misdiagnosed. I said earlier they have really misdiagnosed me, Ivan. And all I was trying to do was bring professionalism to Dangoga, bring professional journalism,
Yes.
class, quality, look at the music videos from down with Look at what's going on down with the music videos. They're not professional. And this is what I'm trying to bring, the broadcasting equipment. They're not professional, and this is what I'm trying to bring to Dangrida. But you know what? It's unfortunate that the people in Dangrida couldn't see me for who I am. You know, so while in Dangrida, I had 2 heart attacks. So I had to come back to the United. I sold my house in Las Vegas to move everything to Dangrida to give. Because listen, in Dangrida, I was giving because this is who I am. I've always been a kind person, loving person, compassionate person.
Yes, yes.
And I'm always giving. So I was giving to Dangrida, giving. You know anybody who would come from the United States, sell their house to come back to a place to give back to the community, and the community don't like you? Do you know what that feels like?
Yeah.
To come back to give. I'm giving my heart to this town, and this town don't want it. How would you feel?
Yeah,
I hope they are listening.
I hope you understand, and there must be a way of how to help people to understand and to see beyond what they're seeing. I mean, there's a lack of vision here.
You know what? And honestly, I feel sorry for them because they refuse to see what I was bringing. So I feel sorry for them, not for me, because right now I'm back in the United States because of my heart attack. So I came back to the United States so I will be here for another 2-3 years before I return back to Dangrida, and hopefully then everything will change. But yeah. So this is what their vision.
Why do you have expectation? I mean, if you don't have expectation, you won't get disappointed.
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't have expectation. I did not. I just decided I would. But listen, my dad used to always tell me, he said, man, listen, son, because my dad was a professional photographer as well, and a musician. He said, son, this is one advice he gave me that I really listened to. He said, do not work with your people because they will take your professionalism, they will take your work, and they will not pay you. Do you know, in Los Angeles, I was capturing the Thanksgiving Mass every 19th of November. I was the one capturing the Mass. Spend hours and hours of putting it on a DVD, and the people will not buy it. And then they would talk about me because I don't want to give them a free DVD. And you know, they never told me thank you. They never told me thank you. And I was the one doing all this work. Do you guys know that I was one of the main cameramen on the movie Garifuna in Peril? The movie Garifuna in Peril?
Yes.
I was one of the
the movie. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was one of the cameramen in that movie because when they were doing that movie, they only had one camera, and it's very difficult to do a full-fledged feature film using only one camera.
Yes.
It just so happened I had the same identical camera that they were shooting that movie with. So I volunteered. You hear me? I volunteered my services to help them finish this movie using my own equipment. You know, and when they go about promoting this film, you would never hear my name. Garifuna in Peril, they would never mention my name, and I volunteered my services to them. And this is the problem we're having with Garifuna people wherever we go. They don't want to tell you
that problem.
But
that problem is systemic. That problem is systemic.
Absolutely.
You see, let me say this. Of total existence, the entire solar system is but a speck.
Absolutely.
Of that speck, the planet Earth is a microspeck. Of that microspeck, North America, USA, Mexico, Central America, South America, Caribbean, put together are a super microspeck. Within that super microspeck, we have Belizeans, i.e., going around calling themselves kings and queens, emperors and empresses, big men and big women. Because they're overly vested in their body and mind. Their psychological drama. as opposed to being spiritually governed, you know, being devoted to spirituality. For we are spirit beings at the core. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I've always said that that we are all spiritual beings, and when we were born, we are born with the spirit. We were perfect. We didn't know anything about racism. We didn't know anything about hate. We were created from a perfect mold of perfection, from a spiritual being, and then we are taught that to hate this person, to hate this race, to hate this. We were all born perfect, spiritual, and we are spiritual.
Yes, yes.
That's the
You are
that's
right.
the way I look at that's the way I look at
Yeah.
my life.
Co-host, you look like you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
react to something.
The thing is that we cannot give up, or we cannot, we understand what people are going through, and that's why I'm very appreciative of this show, Percy,
Okay.
because the examples and real situations that
Yes.
people have gone through and find themselves can
Yes.
be a kind of impetus to help others who might not be seeing that vision, or the need for transformation.
Yeah,
And so I'm hoping that through this
Yes.
show, at least we can get more and more people to realize their purpose, and
Thank you.
and to know, and to know where they want to go,
Yeah.
uh, and what they want to be. Not
Yeah.
imitate others, but being
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah. So
Okay. See, I love that. Francois, prepare your closing argument, your parting shot. Because what Francois has done, he has kept it real. You know, he has shared nothing less but from the heart. You know, and he's given us a dose of reality.
that's right.
Francois,
That's right.
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
You know what?
yes, Francois, yeah,
You said this show is about being the best. Let me see here. Oh yeah, to present the best version of myself.
yes,
To me, for me, the best version of myself is just to keep on giving, to keep on doing what I've been doing all my life, just giving, sharing. I said earlier that I don't believe in religion. I don't go to church, but I my purpose in my life is to
yes,
share the love that was embedded within my heart, right?
yes,
I share
yes,
my photography, I share my money, I share my production, I share whatever I have, I share. And when you get a chance to know me, you will realize that you will realize who I am. I'm a no nonsense person. I've always been that way.
yes.
Uh, uh,
Very disciplined.
yeah, disciplined, very disciplined. I'm very disciplined, and I know what I want to do with my life. I know what I want to do with my community, and I will just keep on being the best version of me from the transformation stage. When when Francis died, when Francis died, Francois came about. Francois is the new version of Francis, and I love the transformation. I love who I've become.
Yes.
You know what? And when I was passive,
Your closing arguments, co-host. Sorry.
well,
Thanks, Francois.
well, I we in Belize suffer from a lot of what I call brain drain. There's so many people who can help us, and so we have to start to find a way to create that environment so that people can come back, and we have to treat those people who come back with that level of respect and encouragement, because that's only how we can grow as a people, as a country, and influence others to do the right things, so that we don't go on a negative path. And so we become not only the best version of ourselves, but we become a society that recognize the value and
yeah,
try to help each other, so that we can reduce
Yes,
the ills,
yes,
and those things that
yes,
in society are not making us and making the country a better place. And
Yes.
Man,
so, Gary, I want to thank you. Thank you
I,
for your contribution,
no, I love what
and
you
want
said,
to
Ivan. I
encourage you.
love what.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Go ahead, Francois. You wanted to say?
No, I said, Ivan, I love what you said. I really do, and this is what we should do. This is what the whole country, I believe, should do. From the north to the
Yes.
south to the east and the west. This is what we should do, Ivan. You said it perfectly,
Yes.
and I
Uh,
agree with what you said.
yeah. You know, Francois has clearly distinguished for us and our audience the difference between indoctrination and spirituality. He kind of started there, and he consciously is determined to no longer, you know, be told what to do, how to think, how to feel,
Right?
and instead to experience for himself, to use his intellect, which is what he's doing, which culminated or peaked when he had his triple bypass. Now, for a man to come on the show and share his experience about near-death experience when he became enlightened, I hope people listening are appreciate how much that takes and go away with the gems from it, realizing how the brevity of life and thus the need to live with the intensity.
Okay.
We lost you there, Percy. I don't
Yeah.
know if your
I know.
internet dropped
Yeah. I know he
or
was saying
something.
for us to live with the intensity, right? And I agree with what he said too, Ivan. We have to live with that intensity, right?
Yeah, we have to start living as if though today is the last day. You know, that kind. Don't procrastinate. Don't lose sight of where you're going, and behaving as if though today we want to do the best and not procrastinate for tomorrow.
You know,
Um,
and
yeah,
this is
good.
the way, I live my life. I don't procrastinate anymore. If something needs to be done, I try to do it right now. I know it's very difficult not to procrastinate sometimes, but sometimes you have to just tell yourself, you know what, this is what needs to be done, and get it done.
Yeah,
You
we lost
know,
first there. I don't know.
all right, I listen. I've heard so much about you. I see you on TV in Belize, and now I get a chance to sit and talk with you. So it's a pleasure talking with you.
You too. I really enjoyed your presentation,
Yeah,
and my hope is for it to have that meaningful effect on our listeners and our viewers,
yeah.
and
Well,
together we can make. Yeah, yeah. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I really Percy is back.
Yeah, Percy is
Yeah,
back. Percy, we were just chatting. But
yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead and chat, and then
yeah, go ahead,
conclude.
Franco.
Okay,
Okay.
let me
No, and
conclude.
I
Yeah, sorry, the interruption was from my side.
okay.
Yeah, I was just saying, uh, yeah, the internet was being rude. I was just saying that spirituality is the realm of nothingness. That in the beginning there was only darkness, nothingness, and space are the same things. So before God created the 5% universe, so the rest of 95% remains total darkness or nothingness with potential or space. So we came from nothing and will return to nothing. So whenever our physical body and minds return to dust, however, we will continue to exist in the realm of nothingness. So transactions are only made in this 5% created universe. The only memory a dead person carries is the last, whether he she died peacefully, joyfully, or on his or her own volition, as opposed to being murdered or killed or by some reckless driver, i.e. So, on that note, I want to thank you all. Let's continue the conversation on off air, and I want to thank our listening audience.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and